There are 3 transformational interventions when grief is present. There are more than 3, but for today, we're just going to talk about story time, timeline, and letter writing. So what is story time? Story time is where you have an opportunity to learn about the stories of someone's grief. You're not asking them, give me your history. You know, what happens when we sit down and we ask for someone's history? They have shared that history so many times, over and over and over again, that by the time they walk into your office, they know it by rote. Do you think they're really feeling what they're telling? Do you think that they're really experiencing what they really don't want to experience? Probably not. So by allowing for stories, family stories, stories that were funny within their family line, or even stories of the lost loved one, or a story that led them to this place of walking in the door. What was their ride to your office like? Or what was it like right before they made that appointment? You're getting to know their cadence. You're getting to know how interwoven their stories are, how connected they are. You're actually getting to see, do they fidget? Do they look away? And you're getting a lot of information without actually having them sit down and fill out paperwork. You're doing an overview of that person without them really feeling that this is formal. You get to actually be present, and they get to be present with you with comfort. Timeline is the same thing. You know, you could sit there with your notes, or you could sit there just listening and just say, okay, I'm going to document this in my mind. But what if in session you had them create a timeline and you did it together? And this timeline is a grief timeline. Maybe it's a joy timeline. Maybe it's a timeline of school when things went well, so that you are using the idea of timeline in very different ways. And that's exciting, because usually someone walks into an office and they're thinking, I'm going to have to go through my history, and I'm going to have to go through things that I really don't even want to touch on. But if you present timeline, and you'll see what the timeline exercise is, it's very different than even, this happened on this date and this happened on another date. Rather, there's some creativity behind it, which when the brain is grieving and it meets creativity, it actually calms down. And then we've got letter writing, which is a whole other piece, and I'm really excited to be able to share that with you, because there's a lot of different ways that one can write a letter. It can be a monologue, it can be a dialogue, and it can be journal writing as well. So one of the things in terms of letter writing and timeline and story time is helping to identify the grief experience. So the grief experience, I'd like to think of it as the big G's and the little g's. And the big G's are those big major losses. I call it the major grief experience. And those big G's, they're death of a loved one, a fire. The big G's are when things have just consistently not gone right for you. The little G's, believe it or not, could be a bad haircut. And it may not seem like, oh, this is a little G, but if you had a prior traumatic experience as a kid, let's say your mom got pissed at you because you didn't comb your hair, so instead she decided to take you and get your hair short, cut short. Well, maybe that was a big G for that little person, but as you grew grew and you became an adult, it was not such a big G anymore. But when you get a bad haircut, it translates into a little G. What happens with little G's, though, because they can be related to some early experience that didn't go so well, a little G or a little T trauma, the accumulation, when not dealt with, can actually turn into a big G. By having this kind of language for your clients, it actually, languaging and precision can really help communication. And what do you want? You want the client to be able to have a languaging to communicate to you what's going on, how it's happening, and how best to counter it, deal with it, face it, and hold it. So now we're going to be talking about the timeline reimagined. It's the we and me. So I want you to look at these 3 circles, okay? On one side, we see before the loss and trauma. And then below that, we have after the loss and trauma. And then all the way over, we see the way it is now. So this is actually a timeline. So you can see, number 1, it's not a line, but it's an assessment tool. And it's a really exciting assessment tool. And what makes it so exciting is that you're going to be able to see relationships using this. You're going to be able to see what's going on in one's life, jobs, history of jobs, how close someone is to family members, to friends, the losses that they've had in their lives. So the good stuff, when, for example, with what I have right here outlined, so this is before the loss. So you can see we've got you marked in the middle. That would be your client. And I suggest that you do this as well. I suggest that this is a wonderful exercise for your own insight, because when we know ourselves and we know where we've had our own losses, we are able to deal with, meet, and greet other people's losses with grace. So we have the you in the blue circle. That would be your client or you. We can see that before the loss or trauma, we're calling the client's sister Debbie. Debbie was not very close to the client. We can also see that after the loss, after the trauma of the loss, you is still in the center, but the sister got closer. This now becomes timeline and story time. You've created the ability to get a story from the client without it being a formal invitation to do so. Conversation can be about, so who do you want to be closer to? Who do you want to be further away from? How did your sister getting closer to you after the loss change you, help you? Is it a relationship you ever thought you'd have? Now, as we can see on this diagram, that after the loss, though you got closer to Debbie and Debbie got closer to you, Debbie is kind of underneath the client, underneath you. And then we see the way it is now. So we have some time. We can say 2 months have gone by after loss. A year has gone by, because you never know when a loss has incurred for someone who's walking into your office. It could be 3 months, 6 months, a year, could be 10 years, because sometimes it takes that long to begin the process of the dance. What happens here, though, the way it is now, is you, the you that's marked there, and Debbie, well, they're aligned. Debbie isn't over to one side. There's a partnership. And you get a story around that partnership. How did that partnership form? How has that partnership helped the grief? In what way have you been able to share the grief? In what way have you been able to dance with it instead of being so disparate? Now you're collaborators, and now you've actually formed an alliance with that sister. What you are also doing as the clinician here is you are showing the client how to have a collaborative alliance with you, with this process, and make it safe for them.